And then maybe The Farewell's coming next week. Is that a possibility?
I'm hoping so, but I haven't seen anything yet.
It was in theaters, for like 200 theaters last week.
I went looking for it. I was in Madison, so I thought, big city, I'd have a chance to, maybe find something. No, they didn't have anything.
Thought about, because I was in Milwaukee Thursday night.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it would have been like at midnight, and I had to work Friday morning. But I thought about looking to see what the local theater had playing at midnight anywhere.
I was literally about 20 minutes from you on Thursday night. Isn't that funny?
You're gonna see Slash. Well, I got the last ticket. Welcome to Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at IHateCritics.net, everyone'sacriticpodcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. Like us there. Comment on the stuff. Sean's reviews are there. The podcast is there. The trailers are up there. And general interaction. But like us and share the show with your friends. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Alexa. Subscribe to the show, rate and review the show. We'll read your review on the air. We got a few recently, nothing this week, but the last couple of weeks we've had some reviews, so we appreciate them. They've all been 5 stars, so keep them coming. We love to hear your feedback. And then if you want to support the podcast, IHateCritics.net/Patreon is the best way to help us out. There's also a PayPal link at IHateCritics.net and a merchandise tab if you want to get some of our shirts. Trying to think of ideas for other shirts once I get motivated. My other podcast is changing its logo too, and and they want to go do shirts, and I'm like, I'm too tired. But we'll see what else. It's more fun for our sake. If I can come up with some ideas, or if you guys have them, let us know on Facebook or wherever, Twitter. This week, I guess we can start off with the sad news. Rutger Hauer passed away.
Legendary character actor. And just I think he's best remembered probably for Blade Runner. That would just be the one where he's the standout. That closing monologue is it's beautiful. It's poetic, and he wrote it himself, which really just makes it stand out that much more. He was feeling every word of that, and it's beautiful, and it just demonstrated kind of who Rutger Hauer is as an artist in that moment, and that's really pretty remarkable. He goes on from there to just kind of be more mercenary, to kind of becomes this character actor that is probably better than most of the material that he's being given, the foreign bad guy most often.
And he's done a lot of foreign films too that I never saw. I don't know if they're good or not. I mean, I like Nighthawks. That's fun. It's one of Stallone's better action movies. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's never fun when someone dies.
He had a brief comeback with Hobo with a Shotgun, which I think...
Did anybody actually see it, or did they just see the cover and go, "That looks awesome"?
I don't think many people saw it. I think they liked the poster a lot and the name.
But it is
a standout name.
I mean, I haven't done it in a long time, but my brother loved that poster so much he actually found the artist, hired the guy to make the poster art for his movie, Could Have a Christmas. Then could not afford to actually have him make one for himself, so he paid the money to get it made for the DVDs and there. But in order to get like a movie poster size one for his house, he couldn't afford that one. He had to order like at least 100 of them, and obviously no one's trying to buy his poster. But he did a great job on that too. That was my brother's movie. Is the best thing he got noticed for was the poster art. So. And that all came back to Rutger Hauer. But moving on from him, we can go to our trailers. We'll start with Gemini Man because Sean hasn't seen it. The first trailer we watched, I was like, okay, it's Ang Lee. I'm on board. I'll give it a shot. It looks like Will Smith's having a comeback. Maybe it'll be a great movie. This trailer sucks, the second one. First of all, instead of leading with Ang Lee, they lead with Jerry Bruckheimer. Oh, wow. But then it looks crappy. Maybe... So, I mean, it definitely lowered my expectations. The fact that Ang Lee is still involved I'm holding out hope, but
Yeah.
I definitely thought this trailer was a step backwards from the first one.
That's unfortunate. This is the one where Will Smith plays a clone of himself, right?
Correct. Looks like the Fresh Prince and the 50-year-old Prince are.
I'm curious. I'm so curious about that. Like, did they have to like take his DNA when he was like 20 and then raise a child clone to get him to that age? Or that's gonna be. I'm not gonna.
See,
the movie's
that's
not gonna
not
address it.
that's not a good way to go into the movie. Because when something like that happens, you're going to be thinking that the whole time. And then every little thing that happens, it's going to come back to that, and you're going to...
I've already short-circuited the movie.
But sometimes when you short-circuit a movie, it doesn't... Like, I will admit, the movie we went to see this week, the one movie that came out, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, we'll get to it, but something I had literally read a comment about someone not liking it right as I was in the theater. So I was waiting to see what was wrong with it, but we'll address that later on. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
This is getting a lot of hype, and a lot of people love this. I'm going to be the negative person on this. I don't know what it is. It's that uncanny valley between Tom Hanks and Mr. Rogers that kind of threw me off. I know that they're being sincere. I know they're taking this very seriously, but at the same time, there are times when Tom Hanks is talking where it kind of feels like an SNL parody of Mr. Rogers, like he's really laying it on very thick. And then you get to the end where everybody's singing to Mr. Rogers, and again, I get it. I know. I felt the same way. I saw the documentary. I cried. I get it. At the same time, it just feels so weird and awkward. And if you can just put yourself in that moment for the first of all, just try and sit there like you're not somebody who knows Mr. Rogers very well, and you're not somebody who would sing in public, and you're just looking at these weirdos singing to this guy. Just how awkward and strange that would be. And I don't like this trailer. I'm not excited about this movie anymore. Like, that documentary is so good, and it's so definitive of Mr. Rogers.
What's the point of this?
Exactly. I don't see the point anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's kind of the main concern is the documentary exists. We don't need this movie. The only reason, I shouldn't say the only reason, but the main reason we have this movie is Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like somebody had an idea, and then, hey, here's an idea, now we have to build a movie around it. Who is this other guy? Like, I don't even recognize this guy who's basically the actual star of this movie, because what kind of arc does Mr. Rogers have? He's a great guy here, and at the end of the movie, he's still a great guy. That's not an arc. So the other guy has to have the arc. He has to go from being cynical and sad and broken, and then meets Mr. Rogers and becomes whole again. I guess that's the arc of the movie. So if he's the arc of the movie, who the hell is he?
Yeah, and that's kind of what that movie has to take on, and hopefully that has to be interesting for this movie to work.
Yeah.
I will say, normally when I see a Tom Hanks movie, I shouldn't say normally, like 50-50, sometimes when I see a Tom Hanks movie, I see, that character from The Burbs or Big or whatever. And then other times he disappears in the role. I kind of felt he disappeared into this, at least from the trailer.
Right.
I wasn't sitting there going, that's Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers. Like I did in Saving Private Ryan or, And other movies where he's done that, Philadelphia, even Forrest Gump, he does it.
Right.
Doesn't make it a good movie.
No,
it just means he disappeared into the role. So I don't know. I probably will never see it unless something happens where this, one, I get a screener of it, or two, that story arc that you're talking about, if it truly is something fascinating, that would be the one thing that could sit that'll make and break this movie. So
no, right now in my head I've been referring to this guy as Sub Jason Clarke. That's because I don't know his name. I don't know who this actor is. I'm sorry, and I'm probably shitting all over somebody's TV fantasy or something. He's a big Game of Thrones star or something. I have no idea who this guy is.
Apparently, it's not Ben Mendelsohn. Zombieland 2 Double Tap.
Pretty good trailer. Yeah, I was kind of in on this all the way. It's weird. It's kind of a weird trailer. It certainly takes the original premise and kind of heightens it. So
right.
That's fine. Is it the same director?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Because it kind of felt a little bit different.
It did feel like a different movie. It almost felt like, okay, we can't do what we did already. You know, we caught you off guard there. We had the Bill Murray scene, all that, whatever. Now we're just going to have fun with it. And they heightened it even more so than it already was. And I appreciate that, letting us know in a way. In a way, you get to lower the bar enough. And at the same time, it's just like, I like the characters. They've all gone on to be, the whole joke of the opening trailer was Academy Award nominee, Academy Award nominee, Academy Award nominee, Academy Award winner. The 4 people that star in this movie. So I think it'll be fun without, changing the world or reinventing the wheel. Light of My Life. Now, when I posted this, I had just read about it. I hadn't seen the trailer, but the premise that I read was Casey Affleck makes a movie where women don't exist. So I'm thinking that's not a good idea. And then I watched the trailer, and it's hard to go back. I guess I could have edited the comments. It was just sometimes my phone doesn't let me get to Facebook or get to the podcast page, so I just left it. But I didn't feel like the trailer itself and the content was that offensive.
No, it's the premise is a sci-fi premise where there's a virus that has killed off most all women in this universe, and all of them except for his daughter, who he is hiding as a boy to keep people from finding out that she's a girl, and they might kill her thinking that she's a carrier of the virus, or take her away to experiment on her to find out why she's not dead. That's a solid sci-fi premise, and the only issue that I take with this movie is it reminds me so much of that Ben Foster movie from last year that was so good, Leave No Trace.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that was a straightforward movie, and this is a sci-fi film. It's kind of like Leave No Trace meets Children of Men in some way. I guess, and I'm kind of in on that. I'm kind of done with survivalist movies. I'm kind of done with the ugly end of the world movies. I've been done with those for a while. So
I was gonna say you were done with those when they started.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't think the trailer was horrible. They are playing it like a real, a straight ahead movie, even though it is a sci-fi premise, which then, makes that Leave No Trace more comparable. And then you throw Children of Men on there. Now you got a high bar to get to, and then Casey Affleck's usually a pretty good actor on top of that, so it's got a lot to live up to, not to mention the fact that you're going to have people writing articles about Casey Affleck making a movie where women don't exist, which is not fair, but at the same time, you made your bed. I got to lay in it. And then there's Hustlers. We were supposed to talk about it last week, but Top Gun ruined everything. Jennifer Lopez stripper movie.
Yeah, she's turned 50 this week, by the way. Does that look like a 50-year-old woman to you? My God.
I don't know. No. But at the same time, I don't know. I always feel like, while I feel like I might be complimenting her by saying that could be taken insulting. I don't know. I just don't know what to say. But yeah, she looks great in this. It looks like it could be somewhat fun, and I'm cool with them making the people of Wall Street look like total just nitwits. I don't even know.
Yeah.
And it's based on a true story. I'm sure it's heightened.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, Constance Wu threw a big fit to be the top billing. I don't know if you noticed that on the trailer, but she's the top billing ahead of Cardi B and Jennifer Lopez. So I don't know. I don't know. Jennifer Lopez stripper movie, I'm usually on board.
I'm in. I'm curious to see how bold it's going to be.
Yeah, I have no idea what's rated. None of the trailers said that.
Not that I'm desperately looking for nudity. I'm just saying that I'm just...
Well, no, right.
That was the first thing I'm sure that people thought when I said that.
When I said Jennifer Lopez stripper movie, I'm sure that's...
That's a technically accurate name.
It is. I'm not going to pretend like I haven't followed all the social media sites that they have for this movie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the only new movie this week that came to our area at least.
Yes. This is Quentin Tarantino and his 10th movie, I guess, depending on how you see.
He refers to it as 9th.
Yeah.
But yeah.
the story of 1969 in Hollywood. A television actor by the name of Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, finding himself at a crossroads in his career. His television series has been over for some time now, and he's finding himself in villain roles on other people's TV shows, and he's told by an agent played by Al Pacino that perhaps this is coming to a head. You need to do something now to change the perception of you. Rick is spending all of his time hanging out with his stuntman buddy, played by Brad Pitt.
Cliff
Booth.
Yeah.
And he just drives him everywhere and does his stuff around his house and is occasionally his stuntman now. Their relationship is the heart of the movie, and it's really a really terrific relationship. A very like this non-competitive, supportive male friendship, which is really really fun. Really like a real friendship. I really enjoyed the way that they portrayed that. These are two really good guys who really seem to care about each other and like being around each other. And that's a unique relationship for some reason.
But at the same time, they're very flawed. I mean, there's things that aren't good about both guys. Yeah. But you can't help but like them throughout the movie.
Rick's deeply insecure. Cliff's constantly finding himself in trouble with his, with kind of an ego issue here and there.
Decision-making problems.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun to watch, though.
Oh, that might be the best scene in the movie with Bruce Lee.
There's a series of little movies, like a lot of Tarantino's films are. There's just a series of little movies. So you've got, the introduction to Rick's. We're introduced to Rick on the set of his TV show, which is in black and white, and that's kind of an indicator how far in the past that is. We cut to color, and we're at Musso and Frank's in 1969, and we get to hear about what he's done in his career with the movies that he's done that have not succeeded, and everybody loves the 14 Fists of McCluskey, even though nobody really knows about it. That's great. Little tiny details like that. We get to see little snippets of the movies that he's made before since then, and hear about his career, and then we're kind of we're tossed in with with Sharon Tate, Margot Robbie, and her life, and I love the way that they juxtapose Rick and her, because the first time you see her, it's Rick returning home, Cliff driving him home, and then you see Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski pull up, and they're going up a hill, and they're at the bottom of the hill. And that was a really lovely bit of visual storytelling.
Yeah,
just very subtle and very smart. And then you get just this series of vignettes that going on from there, and it's set in this realistic time frame, and everything feels like it could have actually been in this place. You're going throughout, and you're watching. You don't see much of Sharon Tate. She's not the biggest part of this. She's very much on the peripheral. She's
almost the glue that holds all these stories together. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Weirdly enough, yeah, because again, what you assume is going to happen, or what happened to her, is holding this whole thing together. You're anticipating what's going to take us to that point. Which, of course, if you don't know, Sharon Tate and 3 other people were murdered in her house on Cielo Drive by the Manson family. And the Manson family are figures in this as well. You see Charlie Manson early on showing up at Sharon Tate's house. Then you see Brad Pitt, Cliff, meets a girl who lives out on the Spahn Ranch, and that's where he and Rick used to shoot Bounty Law. So you get this wonderful mini-movie in the middle of the movie where he goes out to the Spahn Ranch, and he goes to see George Spahn, Bruce Dern, and wants to know whether or not he actually let all these hippies come to live on his ranch or not. And it's this bizarre little mini-movie right there in the middle of this movie, and it's weird and suspenseful and kind of scary at times and really exciting. Wonderful little Lena Dunham cameo in there.
Yes.
And again, this is all coming to a certain point in time in October of 1969, August 1969, where this takes place. And what happens at the end is incredible.
Oh,
It's so incredible.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
But the whole time, I'm just wondering where they're going to go with it and how they're going to do it, and are they going to sensationalize it? And I started to feel like they were going to. I don't know. What they ended up doing, I kind of figure is a version of what I figured they would do. I could have never predicted what they did.
Yeah.
But I was just really worried about it being sensationalized because we talk about Hitler's kind of become a joke, but at the same time they never like go in. If you see him, putting Jews, you never see him, but if you show the Holocaust, it's never played for as a joke,
right?
But Charles Manson has taken on like people buy shirts with his face on it. They just seem fascinated by the man, and Guns N' Roses did a cover song on one of his songs. So part of me was like, I wouldn't put it past Tarantino to sensationalize these events. And I don't know, and with her being kind of the glue of the movie, he kind of makes you feel like he might. Which gives you this extra energy watching this movie. It just was really, I don't know. I was telling Sean beforehand, I was on like 4 hours of sleep going into this movie, and it was a 10:30 at night movie. And it's a 2 hour and 40-minute movie on top of that. So I'm looking at 2 nights in a row of no sleep, and I was wired and not even the least bit tired just because of the storytelling was just so perfect. But yeah, the ending was just perfect. You couldn't have done it better.
No, really not. It's absolutely, it's a shot of the heart. It's so adrenalized, and it really does feel, in a strange way, I kind of felt like this was our revenge on that generation of people. Honestly, like I know that's a weird way to say it, but just kind of sticking it to those assholes a little bit is just kind of nice. It's like a nice bit of revisionist history. Like Tarantino is going back through history now and just kind of righting several wrongs.
How much fun would this have been?
It's pretty great. Everything about this movie is awesome. There's the scenes aboard during, like in the middle portion of the movie, you have Sharon Tate she goes to see herself in a movie, and it's actually Sharon Tate. It's actually Sharon Tate in the Wrecking Crew, and it's not Margot Robbie.
No, it's not.
It's actually Sharon Tate, and it gives us this weird dynamic of her watching supposedly herself in a movie, and it's this combination of artifice and reality clashing at once on the big screen in front of you. It's like, that's such a brilliant idea, such a brilliant abstract notion to put in the middle of the movie, and she's there for a long time, and that's juxtaposed against Rick. He's on the set of this TV show Lancer, and he's rediscovering his ability to act and kind of believe in himself again, and that's via this little girl who's a method actress, an 8-year-old method actress who kind of gives him the business a little bit, and it's just this series of just wonderful little vignettes, these tiny mini movies that you're watching throughout that are just perfect. The pitch, the timing, the visual, they're all just kind of working together in this perfect movie.
Oh yeah, and you talk about these mini movies, you've got beyond an A-list of cast. I mean, you recognize everybody, A-list or not,
Yeah.
Everybody in this movie, from Kevin Smith's daughter to freaking Al Pacino, that you recognize everybody in it in some fashion, and it's not distracting. Al Pacino comes in and is not distracting in his role. Kurt Russell is not distracting. Timothy Olyphant is not distracting. Luke Perry, as sad as his story is, that wasn't distracting. The whole it's just everybody. You knew everybody in this movie, and you still felt like you're watching their characters and not them. And it truly is. I mean, more than anything, this movie is a love letter to like Hollywood in that era, 1969.
His favorite era. He loves that. He loves that time period.
Well, and even if you depending on the way you watch this movie, like Leonardo DiCaprio's character is kind of the type of person that you hear people calling the Hollywood elite. And he's out of touch. He says stupid things. There's at one point he's got a flamethrower, and he's like, "Can we make this less hot?" And they're like, "Well, it's a flamethrower." Not really. But it's that kind of out of touch, he thinks everything's fake, and he sits in a pool and drinks and practices his lines and talks about how hard his life is. Meanwhile, you got this Cliff Booth guy actually does have a hard life, or you would never know it. He's basically he lives on a trailer with his dog and beat up car, driving his Rick's car around all the time. I don't know. It's just you get two different perspectives, but you can tell Tarantino loves guys like both of them, and he just kind of shows you the good part. Well, he shows you both sides of it, but I don't know. You just really end up liking Rick Dalton, even though you could easily be like, this guy's an idiot.
Yeah, the modeling is very plain stated. It's based off of a little bit of Burt Reynolds and Hal Needham and a little bit of Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. I don't want to go to Italy and make westerns.
I mean, that is kind of the arc that Eastwood was on, too.
Right.
He was on Bonanza for so many years, and then when that ends, he's looking for something, and he ends up heading to Italy and making westerns. And it turns him into the icon.
Yeah, I mean, he's as, tied to westerns as John Wayne is, really. Just a different era.
I don't think that would happen for Rick Dalton. I don't know. I don't get the sense that Rick Dalton is on his way to any type of further success after this. Maybe he gets into a Roman Polanski movie eventually, but I don't know where he actually does end up from this. Maybe on a TV show somewhere.
I guess it doesn't matter.
Or there's another part of that too. I think Rick Dalton's probably not long for this world because of that cough that keeps coming in throughout the movie.
Jesus Christ.
I think he's pretty much on the way out if that cough is any indication.
But he was able to realize what's good about him. So it's a moral victory that he achieved near the end. Man, what else? This is there's so much happened in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many really great things, and I know we're kind of coming off as Tarantino fanboys, but I mean, it's just that good. It's just that tight. It's just that fascinating. I know there's several scenes in there that I think annoyed people. Like there's a scene where just Brad Pitt in his trailer feeding his dog. And I know it sounds like a weird thing, but I was just kind of mesmerized by Brad Pitt in that moment, just how intriguing a person he is and how intriguing that character is. And he's giving you this little tiny slice of this guy's life so you kind of know who this is. He may not have much, but he's happy with the little things that he has. Right,
and that's important to the movie, but I suppose I could see why people aren't fully watching it for what it is, I guess. And there are people, like my brother's one of them who loves Tarantino, but there's always something that bugs him about a movie. This one in particular, he doesn't have a problem with. But like he had issues with Django and other just, he doesn't like when Tarantino's in or when Tarantino does any narrating. So everybody has something with Tarantino, except for, I guess, fanboys like us. But I don't know. He is so passionate about every shot in every movie that you can feel that passion if you really give yourself over to the movie and watch it for what it is. And it's impossible for him to suck. I mean, I really think that because he has so much passion for what he's doing. I think that's what it is. I mean, this is a true love letter. And I was watching Inglourious Bastards earlier. I mean, we're going to get into all the movies here in a second. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but he just has a lot of passion and love for what he's filming, and that really comes across unless you don't want it to, and you're blocking it from your eyesight. Be like, quit feeding your dog.
And I think there's other things too. Like people start instead of reviewing the movie, you start reviewing Tarantino, the guy. Like, oh, there's feet again. Look, he's focusing on feet again. He's obsessed with feet. It's like, so what? Get over it. Yes, Margot Robbie's feet are in this movie. There you go.
I love that scene though, and not because of her feet, but it was, like you were saying, it's really Sharon Tate, and then it's Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
But on top of that, she's there enjoying the laughter that the crowd is having for something she's doing on the screen, and he's capturing something like that on. I mean, that's hard to make up and make it fake and make it work. And he really did a great job of doing that. And I suppose at that point, if you're focusing on her feet, then you're missing all that. But I don't know. It was, and she walks by the theater like 3 times before she has the balls to go in and even ask to go. And he just sits there and shows you to her doing it. And it's just really, really cool. The time he takes and the passion he has and the love he has for that, for all of this, everything in this movie. I
saw it twice, and it like these movies tend to do with Tarantino, they get better the second time you see them. They reward watching again, because at 2 hours and 47 minutes, it still felt tight to me. It still felt like there's not an ounce of extra on this that needs to go. Not even that dog feeding scene, because again, I think that's a really good scene. It's illustrative of Cliff. It's important. I can't think of a section of this movie that I want to excise. There's no, because every aspect of it just is smart and well thought of, and it's there for a reason, if it doesn't seem like it.
In my opinion, a Tarantino is the closest to making movies like a painting, where you really could come in at any point. If it's on, whatever movie it is, any of them, you can start it at any point and just watch the rest of it, because it's, one, they're not always in order, but two, it doesn't matter really what the story is. It's a series of moments. Everything he does is always a series of moments, and he just, I don't know, it really is perfection. And maybe it's not perfection, but it's something that, it's a little niche he's created for himself, that he operates in, and he knows, he's just really comfortable there. He loves being there, and he just does a great job of, communicating what he's trying to say, and I love that.
And that's the thing, is as influential and as much as people try to do what he's done, he still feels wholly original. Like that, it feels like a Tarantino movie, regardless of anybody who's ever tried to copy what he's done. They've never been able to do it. For some reason, he stands alone in his style. Nobody else can do what he does. I don't understand it. I can't really explain it, but it's just different.
Yeah, he'll flirt around with genres, but it's still like a Tarantino genre that a kung fu movie will come in or out of. Or it's never like fully a horror movie or fully a Western. It's a Tarantino movie with a dabble of this and that. And I don't know, if you haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I highly recommend doing it, especially if you're like me and Midsummer just really like made you not care about movies like Hobbs and Shaw, and which I might actually have to go see in the theater, because my son is so excited about it. It's not funny. Been avoiding those Fast and Furious related movies since the first one.
I got to talk about like Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. That chemistry is it's perfect, and you don't expect it to be perfect. You expect movie stars to be kind of competitive with each other, or kind of blocking each other, knocking each other off the screen, and that's not the case here. They work brilliantly together. The thing I find fascinating about both of them is that even though Leo kind of was living heavily into a Tarantino character in Django, and Brad was definitely living into a Tarantino character in Inglourious, they seem to resist being typically Tarantino characters here. As smart and witty as and as unusual as their conversations are, they still feel like these are very insecure characters, and especially Rick Dalton is a very insecure character. He resists the typically masculine, straightforward style that you expect of a Tarantino character, to be full of confidence and just that's nonstop rat-a-tat dialogue. Rick Dalton has to stop and think, and he stutters, and I think that stutter is not a problem with the way he speaks. He's just concerned about every little word that he's about to say, and saying it right. And the level of detail that DiCaprio gives this character, the stutter, the cough, the crying, the crying jags, the anger, the way he rehearses, it's very tight, very well constructed character, and it's not typically Tarantino in many ways.
The cough was so believable. It makes me wonder how you fake that without damaging your lungs.
Leonardo DiCaprio's dying.
Or he just like, I'm going to smoke a lot of cigarettes in the short period of time and just get really bad. I don't know. But you're right. And then, you're talking about two big movie stars. Well, one of like Leo was playing a big movie star, so he was very insecure. And then I don't know that Cliff was that insecure, but he was definitely. But he didn't talk like he, like a typical Tarantino guy did. But he acted like, he did have that. His actions were more of his talking than anything, and he was so laid back. But then he'd kick your ass in 2 seconds, and you wouldn't see it coming.
That ending is so great. Oh my God, Cliff is really incredible in those final scenes.
Laugh out loud funny.
I loved the act structure too in this. The act structure here is absolutely brilliant. You can see all 3 acts very clearly. Like he's almost announcing that this Act 1 is ended and Act 2 has begun, and then Act 3 is ending, or Act 2 is ending and Act 3 is beginning. I loved that. And then the narration, where this random narration that pops
up. Kurt Russell, no less.
I don't understand it. It's like the part of the movie that kind of baffles me a little bit, but I'm okay with it.
Especially because he's a character in the movie who's kind of irrelevant. He basically plays a producer whose wife doesn't want to use Brad Pitt as a hitman or a stunt man.
Yeah.
And then he has to fire Brad Pitt for something he does. And then that scene with, I guess one of the rep that Brad Pitt's character Cliff Booth has is that he killed his wife.
Right.
Which that appeared to be based on, was that based on the Christopher Walken thing? Or that was way later on, but basically the idea is he'd push his wife off the boat because she was being annoying. They don't show it, but I don't know. I don't know. The whole movie is fun. You mentioned Lena Dunham, Dakota Fanning, that whole scene, even Bruce Dern, there's no, you're just not distracted. You're not being like, is that Lena Dunham? It's a character.
Yeah.
And you're not.
I honestly didn't recognize her the first time. I recognized her the second time I saw it.
Well, even like Dakota Fanning, I didn't really recognize, to the point where while we're talking, I went to IMDb to make sure that was her because I knew her name. I could have swore she was in it, but I wasn't positive. I don't know. I guess it'd be nice if we had someone who didn't like it, and I don't know. I really don't know what's not to like about it. I am curious. I'd like to know, but I don't know if this saved movies for me or it just made it worse. But it definitely allowed me to know that it doesn't have to be Midsummer all the time now. I am okay with this level of movie as well.
So is Midsummer still number 1 though?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for me too.
But this is right there. It's this. I don't know. I've kind of already forgotten everything else.
I've got Midsummer, this, and Daddy Issues, which
I haven't seen. And I do have Lords of Chaos kind of as a distant
Lords
third.
of Chaos. Yeah.
But yeah, it's shaping up to be a decent year for movies, and throwing in the fact that Kevin Smith and Rob Zombie have movies coming out. Now if those can survive Midsummer, that's it's the real test. So how do you want to do this? Just go back and...
Yeah, let's start at the beginning. Why not?
Reservoir Dogs then, or
Reservoir
the stuff
Dogs.
he wrote?
Let's start with Reservoir Dogs.
I appreciate that.
Stick to the direction. Of course, this is the first film that Quentin Tarantino directed after being a screenwriter and a script doctor for some time. He finally gets his first feature off the ground in 92.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and this movie's like a shotgun blast. It's just off from the first minute. It's just you feel something is very, very different about this movie. The dialogue, the Madonna conversation that opens the movie is so offbeat and strange. You're getting to know these characters, and then you get this really badass shot of everybody walking in slow motion that every filmmaker in history afterwards will try and recreate. And then you're right into the middle of the action after the immediate aftermath of this attempted diamond heist. You've got a guy who is bleeding to death in the back seat, and you've got Harvey Keitel driving the car. Then you end up in this very strange place. This you're in a empty building where you're going to have all of these characters coalesce. Some of the characters you met aren't going to be there. A couple of them are there, and the conversations will ensue. And these are very heightened, very dramatic conversations about life and death and this immediate moment about what took place. It's almost got a Rashomon feel for a time when everybody's trying to reconstruct the story of what happened and who did what and how did we end up in this situation. And all the varying influences of Tarantino are there. The 70s exploitation movies, the just the stuff, all that stuff he grew up on as a kid, but also filtered through that very unique way of speaking that he has, that his very unique dialogue.
And then, I mean, obviously we'll get to it, but the way he uses popular music is, no one does it better.
Yeah. Even
close. He did it great in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well. But obviously oh my God, what's the name of that? Stuck in the Middle. That's an iconic scene.
Yeah.
On top of that, you kind of have guys playing. Yeah, obviously Michael Madsen's playing two type more than anybody else, but like Harvey Keitel is almost against type. Steve Buscemi as well. They've almost like they traded spots, but it's kind of the way I came in watching it. I saw it well after it had been out for a while. I mean, I was only like 12 in '92, so it's not like Reservoir Dogs was readily available, or I even knew what it was. So I come to it later on in life knowing who Harvey Keitel generally is in movies, and it works both angles the way Tarantino shapes it. It just it's like I was saying about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It doesn't matter where you are, you can just start watching this movie and follow it and be with it, and it's, I don't know, you're right, it's something different, even though it's something we've seen before.
Yeah, it's exploitation level violence, but set inside of a crime thriller, and then you've got like that Criterion Collection edition of Rashomon. The storytelling. It's like, wow, all that coming together and coming out of this one guy it's just incredible to see, and you can see a fully formed auteur from moment one, a visionary, a guy who has this very specific idea of how his movies are going to go and delivers on that idea.
And I don't know if it's the first one, but really the dialogue-heavy movies of the 90s really kind of kick-started off in this era. I'm sure probably some of the ones he wrote before that, True Romance and whatnot, probably played a role as well. But it definitely, you saw a lot more dialogue-heavy movies coming out of, the early 90s that kind of ran the 90s, even into now at times. But yeah, just a groundbreaking movie in a lot of ways without even appearing like it when you watch it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you can sense where like a lot of people were turned off by the high level violence and the strange cadence of it. You can see where that wouldn't resonate with a lot of people.
It's funny. My dad thinks he likes Quentin Tarantino. He doesn't realize he keeps forgetting that he doesn't. And he goes to watch the next one. He's like, "What the fuck? Why do you guys watch weird movies?" And he's always liked Michael Madsen. I don't know why, because he's not like he's even Steven Seagal. He's just kind of only been in Tarantino movies and the random TV shows. But so when he saw the Stuck in the Middle part, he's watching, and all of a sudden they cut the ear off, and he was just like, every time he watched it, he forgets about how gory they can be. Hateful Eight, we did it to him. Inglorious, it's just weird. And I don't know, watching that again this weekend or week just brought me back to him having to realize, oh yeah, maybe I don't like Tarantino. The first movie I've ever seen of Tarantino's was Pulp Fiction. It's also the first my dad saw Tarantino. And still the best, I think. which I don't know. I don't feel like that's an insult to the rest of his career by any stretch, though.
Yeah. Yeah, Pulp Fiction, 1994, Tarantino's true breakout. I mean, obviously everybody knew who he was after Reservoir Dogs, but this one broke him into the mainstream, with an Academy Award nomination. A Best Picture that should have been won, but wasn't.
I mean, if they did Oscars for the decade, it should have won 90s overall.
Yeah, really. Truly, just, again, it's another... just a shotgun blast. Like, it wakes you up, and like, this is not other movies. This is this movie. This is what this is. And again, we're talking about a series of very smart, witty vignettes that introduce various different characters who will weave in and out of the various different vignettes. And the standout, of course, is John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson as the two hitmen who have their dialogue that probably have some of the most iconic dialogue in the movie, I would say. The ones that really stand out and people remember. My favorite scene is still the end. Jules is, of course, the character played by Samuel L. Jackson. And his journey through the movie is so much more interesting than everybody else's. I love everybody in this movie, but his stands out for me. That the first instance, he survives being shot at in a fashion that seems miraculous, and it changes the way he sees the world. The final scene is him confronting death once again, but finding a way to kind of use it to form a new philosophy of life. And the Bible passage, the different interpretations of this Bible passage, which to this point in his life he'd used just because it sounded kind of cool. Now he's kind of looking at it from a almost religious perspective and finding new ways to interpret it. That is so cool. That is it's so deep. And it's so, for this character, it's deep, and he's having a legit journey, emotional journey through this movie, and you don't even realize it until the end, like what an emotional journey it truly was for him. And I just love that. I love it so much. But every aspect of this movie works. Bruce Willis as Butch, the boxer who throws a fight and is on the run from Marcellus Wallace. Big Rames, who is the big heavy of the movie. Just really everything just works. It's just dynamite. Like, this just doesn't feel like any other movie you've ever seen.
I know, and it's so... It's just, all the characters are in their own little story, but they'll walk by in scenes and whatnot. Like, even the beginning with Tim Roth and Amanda Plummer. That leads into the last scene of the movie, but... there's inconsistency with the way they shot it, and he did it on purpose. It's similar to Margot Robbie watching Sharon Tate, and you're like, they don't look alike. But it adds something to the... I don't know, it's like a character thing that it gives the movie even more character, and just makes it its own thing more so than anything else. And, you mentioned who's the star of the movie? I don't know. You could throw all four of the people on the cover and make, Sam Jackson, John Travolta, Bruce Willis, or Uma Thurman, but none of them really in it that much. Same with everything else he's ever done, really, other than Kill Bill and Django. There's a lot of moving in and out, and it's not distracting. This movie resurrected John Travolta's career, and then he didn't do anything good after that anyway.
Right.
So it didn't. It's amazing how good he makes people look. Part of me is wants to be see him pick up John Stamos and make a movie and see what he would do with it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not just John, that's the name that popped in my head, but literally any TV star. Ashton Kutcher. I don't care. I want to see Tarantino do a movie with someone that you would never expect to be great and watch him make it great.
Yeah.
And Pulp Fiction's the reason I always think that.
Yeah, it's the scene with the scene where Travolta saves Uma Thurman's life, the drug overdose scene, relates back to the movie we just watched, Taxi Driver. Have you heard this story? So the guy who sells guns in Taxi Driver, he's very very quick scene, not there very long. He actually was part of a documentary. Somebody found him so interesting, they made a documentary about him and his career, and Scorsese's in it, and talking about that guy. And that guy tells a story in that documentary that about 10 people have seen. That is
one
that
of which
scene.
is Tarantino.
Yeah, Tarantino happens to be one of the 10 people who've seen this documentary, and it's that exact scene. It's him relating that exact story that Tarantino takes from that guy, from Taxi Driver, and puts in Pulp Fiction in 94.
It's just insane. And, we mentioned the music, too. The Neil Diamond song that's not done by Neil Diamond. Why not use a Neil Diamond song? Because this song's better. This version is better for this scene. And, not many other people would do something like that. They would just use the original one. And I don't know. I love every second of this movie. It's one of those, I'll mention movies like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back or something, throwaway movies that I'll just fall asleep watching tonight. Pulp Fiction is one of those movies that I can just put on and it just helps me go to bed. It's that comforting and relaxing, but at the same time, it's so quotable. I mean, it's one of my top movies of all time.
Oh yeah.
I think as a podcast, that book we never did, it was number one. So, where do we go next? Jackie Brown.
Jackie Brown. Yeah, this one he waited a while before he got around to finally making another movie. He made this. I think it was 97, maybe.
Something like that, because I saw it in the theater, so old enough.
Taking Pam Grier, of course, who was an iconic of the 1970s, Foxy Brown, which is a movie we talked about on this show. Takes her and places her in the same context, but as a much older woman, and it works. She's a flight attendant who runs drug money for a drug dealer played by Samuel L. Jackson. She's got a sidekick played by Robert De Niro. There's Bridget Fonda's in there, and Chris Tucker, and the central story really is this unique romance that he crafts with Jackie Brown and Robert Forster.
You're going to say Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah. I was going to call him Ben Foster, actually. Robert Forster, who gets an Oscar nomination out of this for his performance. This very tender, sweet character who is a bail bondsman, and this is a much more straightforward narrative than we're used to from Tarantino, but it still feels like a Tarantino movie. It still has the qualities of a Tarantino movie. Perhaps the thing that stands out about this, and maybe is a flaw, is the number of times that the N-word does pop up in this movie aggressively. And I get what Tarantino's said he's trying to do is take the power of that word away, but it comes up so often that it does become almost, it does become a little bit off-putting after a while. But that's a minor thing compared to just the feel of this movie is so different. And it is a 70s blaxploitation movie made in the 90s. And right. Just the little touches, having Robert De Niro as a sidekick. Like, who has Robert De Niro as a sidekick?
And literally, I mean, I guess he wasn't really a sidekick in the first one, but if you were to describe Pulp Fiction from the poster, Sam Jackson's John Travolta's sidekick. So, and then you got Chris Tucker in there too, who's just a comedian. You know, he's doing shtick the entire time. I don't know. I enjoy it. I think it's a good movie. It might be my least favorite of all of them, but I don't think that's insulting the movie because that's how much I like everything else.
Right.
But you're right, it did get a lot of controversy. That's when Spike Lee started hating Tarantino and putting him in his movies to make fun of him, and Tarantino didn't realize he was making fun of him. But I don't know. I hate that they argue over semantics instead of the actual issue, but whatever. Anything else on Jackie Brown?
I mean, there's not much to say. It's a really good movie, but it's like it's the least of my Tarantino, love.
Is it? What do we go from here? Is it Kill Bill next? I suppose I should have brought IMDb up and looked at it.
Yeah, memory-wise, I'm trying to recall. There's another gap in his career here.
There's a lot of gaps in his career. All right, IMDb is known for Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction.
Oh, is that what he's known for?
What it says. All right. Jackie Brown, Kill Bill, Volume 1, 2003.
Yeah, so 6 years. He takes off 6 years and comes back with this, just incredible thing. Kill Bill is such an epic work. We're talking about him going to his Asian roots this time, and touching deeply upon that. And wow, I mean, Uma Thurman is so incredible to the point of being obviously fetishized in many ways by Tarantino, but still, it works. She's an assassin. And, she's trying to escape the life of an assassin, and she's got to get out from this guy, Bill, David Carradine, who is initially going to be Warren Beatty, which doesn't bother me at all not to have him there. I don't think Beatty could have played the role, honestly, getting down to it.
You know what? I think Tarantino could have made anybody play the role. I mean, you've heard Daniel Day-Lewis possibly being Travolta's character in Pulp Fiction. You've heard Michael Madsen possibly. I think they all could have done it just as good because of Tarantino. So, yeah.
just an opinion I have.
But I'm with you.
I think Carradine nails it. I think he's just such a perfect for this character. It just fits it. Probably from his TV show roots, from who he played on TV, makes the character make more sense. All the influences are there. Again, we were talking about exploitation movies and the Chopsaki movies of the 70s. All that influence is there. Bruce Lee, the love of Bruce Lee is there in so many ways, and just the remarkable level of violence. I mean, just an epic level of bloodshed. Just taking it to a degree that is almost, it's comical at the same time it still has impact. That fight scene in the restaurant is just remarkable. The way the crazy 88, the level of detail in the crafting of those villains and the way she dispatches them, fucking phenomenal. Yeah,
it is comical, and it's intense, whatever you said, but then it's stylized, and that just I don't know. To me, I have a hard time. I mean, I can separate Kill Bill 1 and 2, but at the same time, it's, to me, and to Tarantino, I guess, he kind of counts them as one, although if he makes Kill Bill 3, that's going to be his 10th. I'm confused. But that, I've mentioned Midsommar already, and I just I pull that out of my list of best movies, and I just put it off to the side as it's its own thing. The Kill Bills just kind of live outside. I mean, they're Tarantino movies for sure, but they're just such their own thing within the Tarantino world that I can't. It's hard for me to put them anywhere on the list. I don't want to put them ahead of Pulp Fiction, but I don't want to put them anywhere. I mean, they're kind of their own thing so much that it's hard for me to compare them to anything else, if that makes any sense at all.
It's interesting. The rest of the movies he does after this do seem more in line with the style of Pulp Fiction as opposed to this, which does feel like a Tarantino movie, but it feels so much more epic, a lot more broad than the other movies. It seems to have a bigger scope in many ways.
Well, and even with Jackie Brown, it's not like they just follow Pam Grier the whole time. And even Django, they're all over the place. Django, I guess, is closer. But this one, Uma Thurman, she's the star of this movie. It is a ensemble, but she leads the ensemble. Everywhere else, it's just kind of an ensemble that's an ensemble.
Right. If
that makes sense. So I don't know. But you talk about it being fetishized, but that's how in love he is with his characters and the genres and what he does, and you can see that come across. And maybe Kill Bill more than anything else. I don't know. It's hard to, like I said, I have a hard time comparing this one and saying it's better or worse than anything else.
She's a movie star in this movie. She's just magnetic. Her physicality, her vibrancy. She's magnetic. You can't take your eyes off of her, and part of that is the way that Tarantino shoots her, because he can't take his eyes off of her at all. He's absolutely clearly in love with her. But she has to match that. She's got to meet up with his level of elevating her, and she does in every way.
Kill Bill 2.
Again, they shift the story a little bit. As much as it still has a lot of the same influences as the first movie, the second film feels a lot different.
Right.
The story flows in a very different way. Because now it's down to her and Bill, and this is the big confrontation, the big boss at the end, and boy, does that pay off big time. I mean, what a great that confrontation is so exceptional. It's shot differently than the rest of the movies. It just feels different. It's bright and it's lively, and that scene is just so alive with the history of these two characters. Their relationship to each other has so much. I mean, we don't even know the level of history. We've not seen it, but we feel like we know everything about these two characters and how long they've been together, and their relationship to each other, and the complexities of emotions at play. It's so good, so smart, and the chemistry between Carradine and Thurman is off the charts. Like, these people, as he's so much older than her, but you still get the sense of awe and yet romance and the complexity of it. It's phenomenal. What an amazing confrontation. But it begins with that church scene where you finally do get to see what happened to the bride and how she nearly died, and then her in the hospital, and that fucking revenge scene. Just oh god, it's stomach turning at the same time. It's fucking brilliant. Oh man, then the oh my god, I could go through this whole thing. It's so good. It's just so good. Daryl Hannah, Daryl Hannah's amazing.
Yeah, the two is like, I know there's so many genres that weave in and out of these movies, but I always kind of like volume 1 is the Kung Fu movie and volume 2 is the Western. Because it's like went from super fast pace and it slows down, and then the same world and the same continued story. It feels different, but it's not. It's just, it's such an easy watch. It's
quotable.
I don't know. I'm starting to feel like Chris Farley
like
interviewing Paul McCartney.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not going to end. This is going to be the way the podcast goes because we love everything. But if you should encounter God on your journey, He will be cut. Oh, that line is so. I don't know why that line stands out for me, but it's one of the standout lines I think that Tarantino's ever written.
It makes you know that Tarantino can do anything. Yeah. Because I think it was right around this time they're like, he's going to direct a Friday the 13th movie. And I would have watched that, and I would have probably loved it. Now they're talking about he might do a Star Trek movie. Yeah. I mean, going through his directorial list, obviously I skipped over 4 Rooms, which is just a scene. I skipped over ER, which he did an episode. The guy can do anything. But up next is, I'll skip over Sin City and CSI. The Grindhouse, Death Proof. Death
Proof, yeah. Now, Ken, we're one of the hallmarks of his career after Pulp Fiction, and even more so after Jackie Brown and Kill Bill, and into Kill Bill, is everybody kind of anticipating, okay, this is all really good. When's he going to fail? When's he going to direct something that everybody hates? And that keeps going and going and going. And here he's directing something that Death Proof is easily the most forgotten movie of his career because it happened alongside of Planet Terror. And it happened, I guess, as a way of him propping up Rodriguez.
It's not. Career. I'm not going to blame Rodriguez for it. There's a lot of things that went wrong with it. It came out on Good Friday, which didn't help. It was 2 movies back to back and one. So now you got 4 hours of. Yeah. So on top of that, you have all these trailers in there. So it's a long. You have to dedicate a lot of time.
Wild experiment, to say the least.
That the Weinstein Company didn't even try to put on a time that could possibly work.
Yeah, had this happened in the era of Fathom events, maybe this could have been something bigger. Right. But I still think Death Proof is an incredible movie, though, and I think people overlook it far too much. It's down on that other end with Jackie Brown. Again, we're talking about you know, we were talking about a murderer's row of movies here. Like, they're
Right.
all fucking brilliant. There's got to be one at the end, and it's like Jackie Brown and Death Proof around that.
If someone's got a bad 8th and 9th.
Exactly. And that's kind of where Death Proof and Jackie Brown are sitting in my personal rankings. But I still think Death Proof is awesome. Yeah, it's a women's revenge movie. It's a girl gang movie from the 60s. It's a serial killer movie. And it's got this Kurt Russell performance that is just arguably the best of his career. Like, for me, I know there's a lot.
I would agree with you because I think it truly pulls together all the great things he's ever done. Especially, let's just say Jack Burton, Snake Plissken, The Thing. Maybe not The Thing so much, but those characters are kind of in one, Stuntman Mike. And it's just so cool. I'll be honest, I agree with you. I'd put it towards the bottom, but I also watch it probably the most. Because it's the dialogue. I mean, Stuntman Mike hardly pops up until the middle.
Yeah.
Or actually, he's just kind of always in the background. But the dialogue, that first opening segment that's half the movie before they all die, is phenomenal. I mean, it's just like... And they're almost all unknown actresses. And then you have the known actresses next who are, to me, aren't as good as the first set. But it's still... I don't know. It is such a watchable movie. It's such a fun movie. Had it come out by itself, I'm curious what it would have been like. I still don't think it would be that successful compared to other Tarantino movies, but
it's so small.
Right.
It is almost Tarantino at half speed. Like, he's invested and he's doing his Tarantino thing. He's giving it his all.
But he's making a midnight movie.
Yeah, he's directing this as if it were to come
Vanishing
out
Point.
in the 1970s. Like, that's what he's directing this as opposed to being aware of his place in the world. This is a trip to AAA for a guy who's been a 10-time All-Star. Like, that's kind of what this is like in many ways, because he's not giving everything he's got. He's holding back a lot to make this the movie that fits next to Planet Terror. And
again, the whole gimmick was, there's scenes missing. There's the film stock's not great, so they're up there scratching. And Tarantino did it way less than Rodriguez did. Rodriguez really went all out with it, and there's full-blown scenes cut from the movie. But there is scenes in Death Proof that are where the film's not right, and it's all gimmick, and so he's literally making a gimmick movie. And what this movie did make me do is go buy Vanishing Point and start watching that, and I'm glad I did. That ended up being a fun part of the podcast. I mean, I really like Death Proof. I hate to even say AAA. It's almost like Michael Jordan going, no, that's not even fair, too, because he wasn't good at baseball. But, I mean, he knocks us out of the park.
He does.
It's more like an all-star going to play a AAA game with rehab. He just destroys everyone. But still, it doesn't count because it's AAA. That makes sense to me now. Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, Tarantino takes on World War II with Brad Pitt as Lieutenant Aldo Raine. That amazing broad accent that Brad Pitt does. He's the leader of the Bastards, this group of Jewish soldiers who are going to be dropped into France to kill Nazis. That's what they're there for, and collect their scalps. And this is awesome. This movie gets better every time I watch it. It's just so incredibly watchable. Even it feels a little bit long at times. Yeah, there's some moments that I could do. Like, Mike Myers does not fit in a Tarantino movie. I know he's reined in a lot, but it still feels like Mike Myers doing a bit. And that Mike Myers ruins a lot of things for me.
I don't think he ruins it, but I know what you're saying. Of everything Tarantino's ever done, that's the one time that you're almost taken out of the movie.
Yeah, that definitely happens for me in this movie. But it's a flaw in a otherwise flawless film. I mean, this movie is so incredibly watchable. It's just got so many great characters and so many big moments and so much exploitative, heavy level violence. And I mean, even Eli Roth can't ruin this. In fact, he's really great in this. It's the only time I've ever liked him in anything about Eli Roth as the Bear Jew. And that scene of building him up and introducing him, and then that baseball bat. It's so good, and you forget just how many times, how long they take to build that scene of him banging that bat against a wall, and it becomes like a horror movie moment, and it's awesome. It is really epic and brilliant. I love the way this plays out. Christoph Waltz created a character that really deserved an Academy Award. He's at once the most Tarantino character imaginable, with how witty and verbal he is, and just constantly speaking. And at the same time, he that ending is just perfectly not what you would expect to happen to a Tarantino character, but it has to happen because that's exactly the fate he deserves. He's an evil fuck. And Tarantino, that one of the consistent things about Tarantino is he hates evil. He really doesn't like evil people. As much as he might give characters like killers good dialogue, he doesn't like these people. He's ready for them to meet the fate that they deserve. He comes down to the side of good over evil every time, it would seem. But
you almost have to discover that on your own. It's almost like you look back and you're like, now that you say that. Because he's socially awkward.
Yeah.
Whenever, like you said, he said the N-word a million times in Jackie Brown. I mean, he said it himself in Pulp Fiction a lot.
Yeah.
And his intention is, it makes 100% sense. He doesn't care about anything else. He's just doing it, and it doesn't, like, he's not recognizing anything, And then you see him in these interviews he does with people, and he almost becomes the person he's talking to. He starts to talk like them a little bit, but he directs the conversation where he wants it to go, and it's just very, it's almost like someone with a disability, almost to a point where he doesn't realize the consequences of what he's saying or what he could say might bother someone. But by that standards, you're right. He hates evil.
Yeah.
And and we talk about revisionist history with Charles Manson, used even more so here with Hitler, and it's
so satisfying. I know, it just is so satisfying to watch. As much as it's revisionism, as much as obviously this didn't happen, it's just so damn satisfying to see it play out the way it does. The one thing I don't like is what happens with Shoshana. I want that to end better, but I guess I get it.
right.
At the same time, that's the one part of the movie that always kind of breaks my heart, but I guess it's intended to.
Right.
At the same time, I really kind of want to go back and make that again, just let her off the hook. But
that's the power of it, because every time you watch it, you're hoping she gets off the hook.
Yeah, exactly. Every time I watch it, I think the same thing.
It might be different this time. And then you throw in there, his love for like 30s cinema.
Yeah.
It's all there. This movie takes its time more than the other ones do, I think. Like you were saying, so it can feel long at times. But I think that's more from the outside looking in. It's more of a, do I want to watch Inglourious Basterds right now? I don't know. It's so long. But once you're in it, it's just intense.
Yeah.
That opening scene where Christoph Waltz is sitting there trying to find the Jews hiding underneath the floorboards. It's a long scene, but when you're in it is the whole time. You're just on the edge of your seat, hoping that they don't. And again, watching it every time, you're like, God, I hope he just walks away and leaves them there. It's just such a good scene. He drinks milk. That's very Tarantino-y.
Yeah.
Just so, I hate to say fun, but it really is. And then we've talked before in the past on the podcast about the way Hitler is used in movies, and it's almost a joke sometimes. And it's, you don't want to sensationalize what he did, which I don't think anybody's really done, but they've turned him into kind of a Freddy Krueger character instead of a real life evil human. But what they do here is like the way he uses the N-word all the time. Is like he's trying to take the power that we give Hitler away, and he really does. He really accomplishes it with this movie.
Yeah, that is a glorious end. It really just is absolutely it's so, like I said, it's satisfying. Just the same, you can say the same about the ending of the other movies. Like, it's just that's a very satisfying way to end this.
And he puts people next to each other that you would never really think would go hand in hand together. And he's done that throughout his entire career. But, I mean, you literally got Eli Roth and Brad Pitt acting equally in the same scenes side by side, if not Eli doing better than Brad. I mean, it's not, depending on the scene. You're never going to see that again by any other director, especially with Brad Pitt and Eli Roth acting together. But it's just insane. I mean, you got all the bastards. They're BJ Novak and
Paul Rust.
Yeah. But it's not distracting. It's believable. It works. They're better than they've ever been. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I wish Michael Fassbender would have continued doing stuff like this as opposed to the stuff he goes on to choose after this. So it's basically like this, and then he chooses just garbage after making this.
You say that, but I mean, we've mentioned a lot of actors and actresses that. Not that Uma Thurman's been bad, but when you think of Uma Thurman, the three movies pop to your mind are Pulp Fiction, Kill Bills. Daryl Hannah hasn't done a whole lot. John Travolta sucked ass since Pulp Fiction. Samuel L. Jackson at least has been successful. I don't know if everything's been necessarily great, but well, he's been in literally everything since Pulp Fiction.
That's true.
Django Unchained.
Django is the one I have honestly the least memory of, and I wasn't able to get to it this week. But it's interesting. Jamie Foxx is playing a slave here a slave who's no longer a slave. He's working now as a bounty hunter alongside Christoph Waltz, trying to get back to his wife, who's on a plantation, and he hopes to free her. And Leonardo DiCaprio is the very broad, very big plantation owner in this movie. And it's got a lot of badass violence, a lot of big set pieces. This is the first time I felt like a Tarantino movie felt a little bit long to me, but I still love it. I still appreciate it. I guess Jamie Foxx kind of is another actor who sort of resists Tarantinoizing, and that does kind of stand out to me as a kind of a flaw. I kind of wish he lived a little bit more into this role.
Yeah, I can see it. Then you mix the idea with people who've made Django movies before. It's I guess it's not the first. I guess Jackie Brown's kind of a movie like that too, I suppose. But I don't know. You're right about memorable. I don't go back to it much, and there's things I remember, but I couldn't retell the story right now. I could just kind of do it big picture wise, and I'd probably forget something. But at the same time, Samuel L. Jackson plays one of the most evil.
Yeah, that I remember. That character I remember. He is a beast of a character, and Jackson deserved an Academy Award for that.
Yeah, he's gotten kind of screwed a couple times in his career from Tarantino movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I will say this is one my brother likes the least, and it's the ending when Tarantino pops in that really bothers him most. The Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight. This is a monumental moment for this podcast where we went to see a road show of this movie. Western, set in a single location with a group of very unique characters, and again, this one works for me on so many different levels. It's such a remarkable movie that when I saw it initially, I don't even remember.
Well, we left the show. We recorded in the car, and you and Josh had it at the bottom of your Tarantino list without saying it was bad, kind of doing what you were doing earlier, and I had it more like in the middle of the low middle.
I went back and it's better.
Yeah.
It happens every time. It gets better when you watch it again.
Yeah. Hateful Eight has grown on me, and it just sits there and it's rewatchable. I agree. It's, again, I don't know necessarily where I'm moving it to.
Right.
Because everything else is so great. But I really like it, The Hateful Eight.
It gets so much better, and a lot of it has to do with Jennifer Jason Leigh providing this nasty, bitter character. It's just mean and ugly, and I just dig that about her. She's so great in this movie. And you've got the showdown between Samuel L. Jackson and that old mate. I can't remember who the actor who plays him. Is it Bruce? No, it's not Bruce Dern.
Bruce Dern's in it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That confrontation between the two of them is phenomenal. What a great scene. Oh man, you've got Channing Tatum in there. You've got, of course, Kurt Russell playing a nasty character, and you've got this almost Rashomon-like thing that's going on once again, where you've got the story being told by multiple different characters from their perspective and how they see the world, even though they're not necessarily telling the same stories.
Right.
And you've got the three characters who are hiding something, and very obviously hiding something. That is such a great through line through this movie. Oh man, I love it even more now. The more I spend time with this movie, the better it gets.
Yeah, then you have the environment. I mean, I know the environment plays a role in every movie, but it really you feel trapped based on, and he does a great job of capturing that snowstorm or that blizzard or whatever it is, and it just feels dangerous out there when they have to go outside. It feels dangerous the whole time. It's just it is just claustrophobic, and then they say haberdashery a lot, and I like that way they say that. You got great actors working off each other. That's always a fun thing to say. That's something that really started around, I guess, Inglourious Basterds, where he started bringing in A-listers. I guess Bruce Willis is in Pulp Fiction, I suppose, but Brad Pitt and Leo and Jamie Foxx, and now you got Kurt Russell and Bruce Dern, and you're having all these guys work off each other, and it's really, I just love watching it.
The heightened sense of danger that starts at the very beginning with Samuel L. Jackson getting aboard Kurt Russell's wagon, and the mistrust, but then the mutual respect.
The letter from.
So good, so good.
And then, I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's, to me, without having seen it twice, I feel like it's just constantly playing in my head, and it's getting better and better as it goes. And I guess we were going to try to rank them. Yeah,
my top three are pretty much impenetrable, as much as I love Once Upon a Time.
Yeah. What are those? Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill?
Yeah. I think it's pretty obvious.
How do you move these things up the list? Rank. I gotta go to rank.
Yeah. Then we'll do it just like Flick Chart.
Okay, Jackie Brown or Kill Bill. That's easy for me.
Bill.
It's Kill Bill. The Hateful Eight or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I'm with you. Django, Death Proof.
It's Death Proof, honestly.
It is. I mean, I'm not disagreeing there.
I mean, just in talking about it, I had to move Django down the list, probably near the bottom.
We're going to disagree, but I'm willing to concede unless you really want to flip the coin. It's Kill Bill 1 versus Kill Bill 2. I like Kill Bill 2 better, but I know Kill Bill 1 is the superior movie.
I actually think Kill Bill 2 is better.
Oh, you're with me?
Yeah, I'm with you. And that showdown between Thurman and Carradine is top notch.
I always feel like I'm alone on that in any conversation with anybody outside of here. Reservoir Dogs and Inglourious Basterds.
It's Inglourious Basterds.
It is for me. Wow, we're gonna be right on. This is gonna be fun. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Pulp Fiction.
It's Pulp Fiction.
Agreed. Kill Bill Volume 2, Death Proof.
Kill Bill.
Correct. Kill Bill Volume 1, Death Proof.
Kill Bill.
I agree. Jackie Brown, Death Proof.
That's tough. That is really tough. I want to say Death Proof.
I do as well. I'm not even saying that just to agree. I like Death Proof that much.
Yeah.
Like you said, it is like a major league player going down to the AAA and just destroying everybody, but he did a good job of it. Jackie Brown, Django Unchained.
Jackie Brown.
I remember that one better, I agree. Pulp Fiction and Inglourious Basterds.
Pulp Fiction.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Inglourious Basterds.
It's Once Upon a Time.
I think I agree with you. And then recency bias while watching Glorious Bastards. While you walked in, shouldn't play a role. Oh, this is going to be the hardest one for me. The Hateful Eight or Inglourious Bastards.
It's Hateful Eight.
I think I agree. Because if I had to sit down and watch one, it'd be Hateful Eight. But I really do like Inglourious Bastards.
You do.
Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill 2.
Pulp Fiction.
Agreed. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Kill Bill 2.
Kill Bill 2.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Kill Bill.
Kill Bill.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Death Proof.
Once Upon a Time.
Agree completely. The Hateful Eight or Death Proof.
Hateful Eight.
I will agree. Inglourious Bastards or Death Proof.
Inglourious Bastards.
Agree as well. Reservoir Dogs or Death Proof.
Reservoir Dogs.
Probably agree, but we should get the coin. Should play one role here. I do have the coin here.
What did you do with George? He's an
I have
integral
kids.
part of this podcast.
Oh man, where is George?
He's gone forever.
Over here. All right, just for shits and giggles, Death Proof or Reservoir Dogs. Heads is Reservoir Dogs, tails is Death Proof. Do you see where it goes?
Tails.
It is Death Proof. Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown.
Reservoir Dogs.
Agree. All right, so our favorite, our Tarantino list is from worst to best, which I hate using the word worst, but Django Unchained number 10, Jackie Brown number 9, Reservoir Dogs 8, Death Proof 7, Inglourious Bastards 6, Hateful Eight 5, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 4, Kill Bill 1, 3, Kill Bill 2, 2, and Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think that, I mean, other than I think you would probably switch Reservoir and Death Proof.
Probably.
That's my list. So it's pretty damn close to your list, too. If Josh were here, maybe the Kill Bill flips. You know, if he had, I know he liked that one better than 2. But again, you're talking about a murderer's row of movies. So, all right, let's talk about Jason Takes Manhattan.
Kind of break up the monotony here.
1989, Friday the 13th, 8.
Because we've been so positive throughout, it's time to get negative. This is a piece of shit. This is a really shitty movie. Not that anybody can expect anything more than a shitty movie out of this. It has to be shitty. It's Jason Takes Manhattan.
It's trying to be shitty.
Yeah.
I mean, the title is shitty. It's like shitty funny, and it accomplishes what it's trying to accomplish, I guess. But
I wanted more camp. I wanted them to embrace the camp, and they don't nearly do that enough. Because they confine everything to this boat and then this one minor set. You get one shot of Jason in New York, and that's it. And it's
right,
just him scaring off some kids with a radio, and it's like, ugh.
Well, at some point you got to pay for the movie,
I guess. So I hate this movie. I don't think it's really any fun. Not that it's not scary. Obviously, it's not like, and it's not exploitative. Even it's just bad. Like, it's just bad in a way that is just not very interesting.
Is this the first one Kane Hodder did?
Is it? I have no
I
idea.
think it might be. And then he went on to do like 3 or 4, or I don't know how many more after this, but yeah, I guess I just have a Jason was the first Friday the 13th without Jason, really. It was the first horror movie I ever saw. And then this one was kind of came out where I remember it. It's kind of like when The Departed's my Scorsese. I guess this is kind of my Jason movie. But you're right. It's definitely just kind of like, how can we make some money?
Yeah.
The camp's all in the title, and it kind of begins and I don't want to call it ends there, but they definitely don't go as far as they do later on.
No. You know how this movie ends?
I forgot.
It ends with they're in a sewer, and I think there's some sort of radioactive thing, and then Jason gets run over by it and then becomes a baby? He's like a child.
Oh.
It's like, what the fuck?
And then he goes to hell in the next movie or something like that.
Like that. It's bizarre.
I love how they always try to get themselves out of the predicament they put themselves in at the end of the last movie.
He goes to space eventually.
And they embraced the camp in that one, to the point where I was like, this is too much camp. And I moved my notes because looking for George. What else came out in '89?
Turner and Hooch, is that this week?
Yes, Turner and Hooch.
Tom Hanks says Bob likes him.
Yeah, fun. Fun and goofy.
All I remember is the dog gets shot. I remember that. I don't remember much else about this movie. I don't think it was very good.
Yeah, definitely forgettable.
I actually, to the point where I like Dragnet better than this movie.
I don't remember the movie enough to really say what I like or dislike about it. I know I've seen it, but I didn't carry any nostalgia with it other than the cover and the fact that it exists. So I apologize to the Turner and Hooch fans out there.
I'll say this: it's better than K9. Tom Hanks over Jim Belushi.
I will agree, but again, I'm only agreeing because of Tom Hanks and Jim Belushi. Not remembering either one of these movies, just knowing. It's like if you're doing a flick chart, I would be like, I don't remember, but I'm going to go Turner and Hooch just because I know it has to be better. I don't have to have memory to know that. And then that cartoon elephant, Babar the movie, and Kiki's Delivery Service.
Kiki's Delivery Service is one that everybody should see. Classic animated film from Studio Ghibli, and it's going to be on the big screen again real soon.
Yeah, that's the only one of the four that I saw promoting anything for the 30th anniversary, and it was that it's coming back. Is it Fathom Events?
Yeah.
I think that's how I saw it.
They do a monthly thing that they call Ghibli Fest, where they bring back their animated movies.
I've actually bought some Fathom Fest tickets recently.
Oh, yeah?
There's a movie called Game Changers that James Cameron did. It's a documentary about vegans. So my wife really wants to see it. And then 2 days later, 3 from Hell. Actually, 3 from Hell is going to be the same night as Game Changers. And I think even, is Jay and Silent Bob doing the Fathom Events thing before the tour or not?
I don't know. I hadn't heard.
Doesn't matter. Next week, we got at least one movie, Hobbs and Shaw, is coming at you. I'm hoping the Farewell A24 film comes.
Really looking forward to
did
that.
get us select cities last week, and usually when they do that, it comes, but I guess it depends on how well it does.
It did extraordinarily well. It broke records for how well it did in limited release.
So I suppose there's a shot it could come then.
The per screen average for that movie is off the charts.
$1 million.
Like, no joke. Like,
no, I know. They're like in 128 screens, and I saw it. So I'm hoping that comes, even though I'll be out of town. Maybe I'll get a chance to see it. Our classic's going to be The Great Escape, because who cares? Why not?
Yeah, we don't really have anything related to it.
Well, Lock Up. In '89, Stallone gets out of prison. He plays a quarterback who goes to jail, and then he has a scene where he plays football in it, and it looks like he's never thrown a football in his life. But other than that, it's a fantastic action film.
I have no memory of this movie.
But yeah, next week is Lock Up, Parenthood, Young Einstein, and Sex Lies and Videotape. So 3 movies I've seen, one I will see for the first time. And that's Sex Lies and Videotape, probably the best of the 4. Definitely the best of the 4.
So you went out of your way to see Yahoo Serious.
I was a kid. But yeah, that is our show. That's next week's show as well. We want to thank our Patreon supporters. We'll start with our key grip level, Charlie Messing and Jason Bryant, the Hall of Fame wrestling podcaster. Our character actors, Josh and Beth Paul, Cousin Jeff, and Christina Cato. Our special effects level, Corey Finneran and Sarah Morrell. And then our movie star, Dave Sievers. If you want to be a Patreon supporter, head over to ihatecritics.net/Patreon to get yourself credit on the show. There's also the podcast merch and the PayPal link there as well. What else am I forgetting? That's pretty much it. Rate and review the show or read it on the air. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.